Good evening. I'm Mike Mack, and I'm chairman of the School Building Committee. Welcome this evening to, I guess this is our third forum. If anybody wants to move closer, I welcome. We've had a series of these forums, and who's operating the, there we go. Tonight what we're going to do is we have some brief opening remarks. We're going to talk about the need for the new school, our educational vision. We'll look at options, why we chose the solution that we chose. We'll talk a little bit about the Massachusetts School Building Authority and their process and procedures, anticipated project costs, and we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. So what are we going to do? The process of developing the proposal is a very collaborative process. Let me speak a minute about the School Building Committee itself. The School Building Committee was authorized after the town voters approved our participation with the Massachusetts School Building Authority to enter into a feasibility study. Now, the School Building Committee is made up of a member from the Planning Committee, a member from the Finance Committee, a member from the Board of Selectmen, 2 members from the School Committee, and 3 members who are citizens at large. This group of volunteers has come together with technical support, obviously from the superintendent, from the principal, from the facilities folks, and we've been working at this now, at this phase, since that vote of almost 2 years ago. In the time, we've had over 50 meetings. We've met with school district personnel. We've had meetings with teachers and administrators. We've had meetings with parents. One of the first things we did as a group was to hold an educational visioning session, which included a number of teachers and parents and community members. We've met obviously with the Massachusetts School Building Authority many times. And in the process, we've also met with all of the statutory departments in town, the building department, the planning committee, the finance committee. We have also met with other groups within town that we thought it was important to get the information out, because along the way we wanted to make sure that we had a process that was open and transparent, and at the end of the day people would understand what the proposal was so they could make an informed choice. We've also met with folks like the Council on Aging. We've met with members of the Eagle House. We have met on a neighborhood level. We've gone to folks' homes where they invited in their neighbors to serve coffee and answered particular questions. And we're going to continue to do that. We have a coffee scheduled. I believe we're going to be visiting with the Girl Scouts sometime soon. You know, we've also obviously we've talked to the PTA, who, by the way, has looked at our proposal and has unanimously endorsed the proposal. So we want to talk about the existing conditions. And for this, I'd like to introduce the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. And Mr. Mack, of course, is the chair of our school building committee. And up here in the front, you see several other members of the committee, and I just want to extend my appreciation to them for their work. The master plan and feasibility study completed by DRA in 2007 concluded that Lunenburg High School had significant educational space needs and accreditation issues. The study cited undersized science labs, an undersized library, limited technology, and poor accessibility as very significant concerns. Additionally, after an on-site review, a report by the visiting team of the New England Association of Schools and Colleges cited that the building's physical plan does not meet the basic expectations for a current day school facility. The building is unable to support the demands of teaching and learning in the 21st century, and as a result, the school was placed on warning status by the association. The school is required on an annual basis to document progress to a board addressing these facility concerns, and failing to do so may result in the loss of accreditation. Loss of accreditation adversely impacts college admissions for students, and the research also indicates that property values and bond ratings of communities are negatively impacted when a school loses accreditation. The DRA study reported that the basic building envelope for the high school needed replacement. As a result of the poor condition of the walls, windows, and roof, the building has leaks, classrooms are drafty, and heating costs are exceptionally high. The setting of the structural concrete floor slab is also cited as causing walls to crack and walls to come loose. The lower level of the high school has groundwater infiltration, as seen in this photo. Much of the plumbing and electrical infrastructure is at the end of its useful life. The study concluded that the existing systems would be difficult to expand or improve without wholesale replacement. There is also a lot of asbestos-containing materials in the school. There are currently 579 students attending Lunenburg High School. The building as it currently exists is 20,000 square feet short of the MSBA standard for a 9 through 12 high school with 445 students. I'll remind everyone that currently we have 8 through 12 in this building, hence the higher number of 579. But the design capacity for a 9 through 12 building would have been 445 students, and still requiring 20,000 square feet of additional space in order to meet the MSBA standards. The size of the average classroom currently at LHS is marginal when compared with the MSBA standard, and science classrooms are significantly undersized. To illustrate that, our current science classrooms are anywhere from 850 to 900 square feet. The current standard for a full science lab under MSBA standards is 1,440. Despite the efforts of our talented and creative faculty, educational opportunities are limited by the facility, particularly in the areas of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the arts. There are few spaces in this building of sufficient size for hands-on, project-based learning, and the current facility also lacks sufficient spaces for counseling, health, and individual or small group instruction. District-wide, we are at capacity in 2 of our 3 buildings. After the completion of 2 studies on regionalization, as well as a special study by an advisory group, the school committee recommended in 2011 to move to a more sustainable 3-building configuration. This would allow us to provide a developmentally appropriate, high-quality, and fiscally sustainable educational program to the children of Lunenburg. A co-located middle high school for grades 6 through 12 was recommended to improve student learning outcomes by providing students at all levels with facilities that support best practices in teaching and learning. One of the positive and highly compelling aspects of this building with a co-located middle school, high school is not only do we maximize the capacity and the access to upgraded facilities for students in 6 through 12, but it also allows us to have students at the lower grade levels in facilities that are best fit for their needs, and with regard to our 3 through 5 population also will see an upgrade in the facility. So as it currently exists right now, Lunenburg High School, it contains students in grades 8 through 12. In the proposed, with the new co-located middle school, high school, of course it will be a 6 through 12 configuration. Turkey Hill Middle School would move from a 4 through 7 building, which it is currently, to serving students in grades 3 through 5. And Lunenburg Primary School, which currently serves pre-K through 3, will return back to the pre-K through grade 2 configuration that we had. And this will allow us to, once again, in a smaller footprint, be able to provide that developmentally appropriate education for our students across the district. So to talk about some of the preliminary options we studied is Mr. Charlie Hay from Top A Associates, who will talk about the options and the preferred option.
Thank you, Loxley. Thank you for coming. I'm going to use the magic clicker. As a forewarning, last time I used this, I dropped it on the floor and it broke into about 300 pieces, so bear with me. I wanted to talk, is this working? Is this still on? Is it good? Okay. I wanted to talk for a minute about process and about how we got from where we started to here in terms of the committee's work. The committee, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, who is funding the project and funding the design phase of the project, has quite a prescribed process that they ask each community to go through as it moves towards building a project. And the early phases are a feasibility study and schematic design, and those two phases have been completed. The feasibility study is really intended to look at whatever the options are out there that are feasible options to consider and select from those options to pick ultimately a preferred option, which then the schematic design, the design is then developed from. So the options, and the options are quite, the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, is quite clear on what it wants the community to look at. So we follow their guidelines relative to what we studied to some degree. But the options that were really looked at, obviously the community could take no action whatsoever, but then the point of what we're all here for would not happen at all, which is you see no improvement to the current building, no change in your current programs. Another option, and the MSBA does ask the community to look at this, is a limited renovation of the existing building. If this Lunenburg was simply to renovate this building, keep it essentially the way it is, keep the classrooms in their current configuration, but simply bring up to code and to current day standards the building itself with all of the issues that the superintendent just mentioned relative to the building envelope, relative to water in the basement, and putting in new systems and making it code compliant. This building is not handicap accessible currently, it doesn't meet life safety codes. Just to do that was estimated at $35 million, and that wouldn't be reimbursed by the MSBA. So they ask you to study it, and then they say, but we won't reimburse you for that. And the reason they won't do that is it doesn't meet their current educational standards for school design, and they will not participate in a project that doesn't meet their standards. So that option wasn't really ultimately even on the table, even though we were asked to study it. However, another option would be to renovate this building and add on to it to get it to have the capacity of that they would require. In that case, you'd have a high school only, like you have now, but this building would be enlarged. But this wouldn't solve the many constraints that this building currently has around, these great long corridors, and while we could make the building code compliant, where we have level change and all, we still have lifts or ramps. So there's still some issues around that option, and that had a $40 million project cost, and it does not solve what the superintendent also mentioned is the issues at your other schools, at the primary school and at the Turkey Hill Middle School. The primary school is actually over capacity. You need a couple more classrooms than you have there, and Turkey Hill Middle School is at capacity. Another option, so that brought the committee to look at this possibility of doing a middle high school. And one option for a middle high school grades 6 through 12 was to take this building and again put on a larger addition. And we looked at that option as well, which is to really take the existing high school, put a big, huge addition on it, and say, all right, well, there's a middle school and a high school combined. Another option we looked at was to create a brand new high school, so essentially replace this building with a brand new building. But again, that option doesn't solve the problems you have with the other districts, but it would be at least a new building. It wouldn't have the constraints of this building. However, the cost between renovation in that case and new in that case were not particularly significant. Finally, the preferred option, which Superintendent Combs already mentioned, is to construct a new combined middle high school next to this building while this building is still being occupied, and then take this building down once the new building is built. And in the view of the committee, a couple of very important aspects of this design or this approach made it make the most sense. The construction cost is very similar between new construction and renovation and addition, which I think people intuitively are suspicious of, but it's borne out over and over again that to renovate and add generally is not a big cost savings over new construction. And if you do with new construction, you get a purpose-built building that is really designed for what is quite a unique building type, which is a middle high school combined. You have a building that's intended to last for 50 years instead of renovating a building which is already 50 years old and so already is somewhat tired. And it really impacts, as the superintendent said, the most students in the district, because not only do you have 7 grades of students going to a brand new school, but you've impacted on every child from pre-K up, because we are taking students out of the other 2 schools and giving those schools room to grow and room to truly offer all the programs you want to offer, where currently you have constraints. So this, by doing one single project, you've impacted on every child in the district. So it really leverages how you're delivering education for the kids. So the final solution was, the final preferred option was to recommend to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, Lunenburg, proceed with a middle school, high school, grades 6 through 12 as a new building. The proposed project, which I'm going to talk about for a minute, is shown here as a site plan. And this shows the existing Passio School and existing libraries here, the existing Turkey Hills there. There's the blue track for your football field. This shows a brand new building being built where the 2 grass football fields are now. And the existing high school sits right there. The building we're in is right there. So we'd be building a new building next to your existing building, then tearing your old building down, this building, and taking those 2 fields and putting them where the old school was. So it's a flip-flop, essentially. It also calls for a new practice field down by Mass Ave. It calls for a through road between Mass Ave and Oak Ave, which allows us to get traffic off of the streets and onto the site, which is a good thing from a queuing point of view and a stacking point of view. It should help significantly when you pick up and drop off traffic. There's a dedicated bus loop, dedicated parent pick up and drop off loop. There's also additional parking separate from the parking in front of the building that can be used as student parking and also as game day parking. And the nice thing about that is you have a little less conflict with students driving in and out relative to staff and visitors driving in and out, as well as buses. The existing turf field remains. There'll be new new outdoor basketball court and new refurbished tennis courts. And the Passios remains as it is, and the library remains as it is. So that's kind of the site plan. Oops, I'm sorry. See, I knew I'd get something wrong with this thing. It's too high-tech for me. So here's a floor plan, and what's this showing you? These 2 orange blocks are, this is the middle school and this is the high school. So those are 2 separate academic wings. So the kids who are in middle school are in one academic environment, the kids who are in high school are in a different academic environment. They enter in the morning and leave in the afternoon through two separate entrances. There's a high school entrance, there's a middle school entrance. There will be only one visitor entrance during the day. So the public, remember, the public comes, a visitor comes, they're going to come through the main entrance, which has a control point very similar to what you have here today at administration, where they'll be checked in. But at least to pick up and drop off, the middle school students will go one way, the high school students will go another way. And the high school kids can kind of mill around in the media center, which is that yellow box down there before school. The middle school students can mill around in the cafeteria before school, and then they move into their own academic wings. The rest of the school is really shared, and the blue boxes are art, music, and theater. There are art classrooms for middle and high school. There are technology labs. There's a fixed-seat auditorium, much like this. There is a significant increase in the number of music classrooms over what you have today. The green boxes are all athletics. There's a dedicated middle school and dedicated high school locker rooms. There is a full-size gym with bleachers and a basketball court. And there is, so those are all shared, and then at one end is the library, and at the other end is the cafeteria. On the second floor, you see those two classroom wings. There are some classrooms in the middle there. Those are intended perhaps to be world language classrooms, and the idea was that perhaps the middle school students and the high school students could take advantage of those programs. That should increase the opportunities for the middle school in terms of world language. So you're really leveraging the staff you have now and the programs you have now to impact on more kids by this kind of a model. This model is a way of getting the most out of the staff you have, the most out of the educational funding you have locally by building a building that has more students in it. And more grade levels. And then finally, the administration is in the middle, in the front, and that's a shared middle high school administration. There's usually a lot of concern and question around construction on an occupied site and phasing. In this particular project, it's quite straightforward, actually. The yellow box would be the new building, and there'd be a construction entrance off Oak Ave. The new school could be built on those football fields without any real negative impact to the ongoing operations of this building, given that the parking lot wouldn't be impacted, the driveways wouldn't be impacted, the parking on the side wouldn't be impacted. The one issue, of course, is that we're building on those two grass fields. So there is going to have to be some accommodation to finding a place for the athletic programs during construction. Which I know the district is already working on. One of the unique aspects of this project is rare is you still have a multi-purpose turf field that's fully operational during construction, which is terrific. And that's a positive, and that doesn't usually happen. So, and even if it does, it's often a grass field, which you can't take the kind of use and abuse you need if you have a single field out there. But at least you still have one field and a track for athletic programs. And once the new building is constructed, the school would occupy this building, and the existing high school would come down, and those new fields would be constructed before the project was complete. These are just a couple of quick images of very early days. The design is not fully developed. It's still in a kind of planning diagram phase. However, we are starting to work on what the exterior could look like, but this shows you the front of the building with kind of a nice courtyard, those two entrances, the two classroom wings coming towards you. There's an aerial view. You can see the track in the rear. You can see the bus drop off in the front, the parent car pick up and drop off in the front. Again, the two classroom wings coming towards you. This shows a picture of the media center, and you're sort of looking up at the building. And what will happen is if we take this building down, as you know, the fields in the back are higher. So you're going to be looking up at the new building, which should be a nice feature, particularly from Mass Ave. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Greg Cohan, Russell Lesser, the owner's project manager, to talk about the schedule and other matters.
Thank you. Again, I'm Greg Cohen from Johnson Lesser, Owner's Project Manager. Thanks for coming out tonight. Wanted to briefly walk you down through the milestone schedule, give you an idea of the time frame involved with the project. If you notice, the first one is spring of 2013. That was the program development that Charlie just kind of walked us through, and the options analysis. With that, there was a preferred schematic design option submitted in April 18th of 2013. From that point, the MSBA approved the preferred schematic design in the 31st of July. Then we had to resubmit again the schematic design, which we finalized, but cost estimates and some other stuff to it. That went on the 3rd of October. We were approved on 11/20, right before Thanksgiving. MSBA approved the project scope and budget. So the next milestone, again, coming up will be the first of the year, where we'd have a special town meeting. And again, on the 11th, we would have the debt exclusion vote. After that, then the milestones would be to start commencing the design of the building. And that would run from January 14th through September of 2014. And through that will be design development and construction documents. From that point, we would commence construction November of 2014. We would have substantial completion of the school in June of 2016, and the new school would open in September of 2016. From that point, we'd move over to demolition of the existing school of fields, and we would wrap up the project in June of 2017. And I wanted to walk you through the summary of the budget. And as Charlie had described earlier, all the options analysis and all the programming and stuff, that was known as the feasibility study. And again, we were funded for $750, but we will only spend $619,057. Total fee for the design, engineering, and administration, which would be design development through closeout of the project, that's $6,909,000. The CM at Risk Construction Services, what that means is we brought a CM at Risk on board to assist us with the estimating for the cost of the school. And that's cost $160,000 has been budgeted. Construction costs, which to help us evaluate with CAFE as well, that came in at $59,570,728. We've also put $170,000 toward miscellaneous project costs, which would be utility costs, testing fees, which would be compaction, any of the testing needed to build a school, as well as some moving costs. Again, that was $170,000. Furnishing and educational technology, which is funded by the state, that amounts to $1,200 per student, times the total amount of students, and again, twice, so they'll give you the $1,200 for the furnishings and the $1,200 for the educational technology. Always carry a little bit of contingency for the job, so that we have budgeted $2.9 million for that. We have budgeted $600,000 for potential owner's contingency. So that brings the total budget to $72,975,321. The maximum MSBA grant is $36,190,870, and the minimum local share would be $36,784,451. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie for the project financing.
Good evening, I'm Carrie Spidell, I'm the town manager. So we are looking at financing this project on a local level at about $36.6 to $36.8 million is what the town would end up needing to finance for this project. The town legally has the option to finance the project over a 20 or 30-year period, or really anywhere between 20 and 30 years. And the decision to finance the project, the term of that financing is a decision that's made by the Board of Selectmen and the town treasurer. The selectmen did look at the impacts to the homeowner based on either a 20 or 30 year. The 30-year provides a lower annual cost to the homeowner, but increases the interest costs that are paid over the term, just like with a mortgage. The board just this week decided that they would like to finance the project over a 30-year term. So we're going to look at the impact over a 30-year term. So what we did is, obviously, the amount that you would pay as a homeowner is dependent upon the valuation of your home. And we broke down all of the homes in town, put them in different categories, and we often talk about the average assessed valuation, which is a home that's valued at about $248,000. And if you look at the town as a whole, about 60% of the households are either at the average assessed valuation or lower than that. So over a 30-year term, based on that $36.6 to $36.8 million price tag that we're looking at, the average household would pay about $468 annually for this project. And then if we look at the next group of households, and we're looking between $250,000 and $400,000 in assessed valuation, this bracket captures another 35% of households. So if we look at this bracket, anybody with a home that has an assessed valuation up to $400,000 would pay up to about $750 annually for this project. And then the homes with the highest assessed valuation, anything over $400,000, this only represents about 5% of households in town, and they would pay significantly more based on the cost or the assessed valuation of their home. So again, we're looking at financing the project over 30 years. The board did put out a survey, and we had a number of people participate in that survey, and about 2/3 of the respondents to the survey indicated they would prefer a 30-year term, and that's why the board has decided to go with a 30-year term. And I think to wrap this up, is it Mike or Loxie? Mike?
Before we take questions, I just wanted to look at what would happen if we did not build. So the renovation and limited addition to founding grades 9 through 12 will exceed $33 million, and the MSBA will not participate. The town of Lunenburg will lose more than $36 million in state funding, which is what they've committed to. We'll face increased maintenance costs as a result of our building system exceeding their useful lives and deferred maintenance. Lunenburg High School will be at greater risk for losing accreditation. And construction costs in the future will increase, resulting in a more expensive project. And from an operational standpoint, we will need to reopen the T.C. Passio School, which will increase operational costs and also require several $1 million of renovations in a very short term in order to keep it useful. Next slide. We have several ways you can stay connected with the project. You see we have a website, so it's up there. We also have all this information that you see before you today up on the website. So if you want to go back and take a look at this presentation again, you can see it right there on the website. We have a Twitter account, as you can see. We also have a Facebook page. Again, all the information that you see here is available through the Facebook page. Also, if you sign up for that, it gives you any updates that we have. And of course, you can always communicate through the building project at lunenburgonline.com, or you can call Mary Landy, the superintendent's office, and you see the number there. So at this point, I'd like to open it up for questions. We've got mics on either side. If you just have any questions, feel free. And if I don't have the answer, there's a whole bunch of other people here that will.
Yeah, I'm Jim Mendoza. I've been in town since 1973. I went to school here, and at Passios and at the middle school. And look forward to lab in particular hasn't changed one bit since 1986 or 97. One of the things my daughter, she is in 5th grade, and thinking about her going to school in a school in this kind of repair is certainly had an impact on my attitude about this. I serve on the Agricultural Commission now, and several of the other community members and some other people, there's a greenhouse shown on some of the plans and the pictures that wasn't mentioned this evening. I had been told that there were 2 sets of plans, one that has the greenhouse and one that doesn't. Is this true?
Not yet. I've actually been talking to Jim Latanzi. I'm Dave Anthony, first selectman, by the way. And we've had conversation. You know, we understand what's been shown so far and what's been listed for prices is more of an architectural, you know, glass and steel,
Right.
you know, a real presence, if you will, which of course costs a lot more money. I mean, that's with a full basement, a full foundation, plumbing, electric, the whole 9 yards. So Jim had mentioned the concerns of the Agricultural Commission, and based on, you know, if you're producing produce, you'll have a larger plastic hoop. I can't remember the term for it now.
Yeah, they generally call it greenhouse.
Yeah, so he's actually talking to some folks. He's going to bring back some ideas, so hopefully you guys will all get together and bring some things forward that we can look at and implement here. Because we don't want to spend a lot of money to be resented. We want to have something that's useful, that's practical. But we also want to worry about aesthetics a little bit. So hopefully we'll find some middle ground.
That sounds good.
And it's not just about aesthetics either, it's about usage. I mean, the greenhouse is not simply something where we're going to be growing some vegetables or some flowers. We see this as an expansion of our science program. The way that it had been laid out, it was located very close to one of the science rooms that would be used for biology, and we thought that was a good facet to it. We also see it as, you know, an expanded use for connections to the agricultural community, expanded use for earth science activities. So, you know, we're not seeing this simply as the current use, which is, you know, some you know, home gardening, some plants and things. We're looking for a real robust curriculum around the use of the structure. So we're going to have a dialogue about it and come up with, you know, what's going to work right for us.
It is, I think it's very important to make sure that in one way or another that connecting the kids back to school time is very, very important. Other than that, I guess the building is going to be solar ready, I've been told. I personally I would like to see it. I wish that the solar panels or something along those lines was part of the concept. I think, especially today, it's very important. I am disappointed that that's not part of the plan currently and something that we would wait for or hope for in the future. It seems to me that that's another educational opportunity that if you build a building that shows, you know, a connection to a green attitude, of stepping to the future instead of a step sort of lateral energy-wise, I think that would be something, like I said, I personally wish it was there now. Hopefully it can be there in the not-too-distant. I'm not surprised that it's not there.
Well, again, this is would you like to? I'll start. You'll finish. I do know that.
And then John.
Okay.
Okay, next.
John. Yeah, the John would be. Just for starters, okay. The reason that it's solar ready and not the solar panels aren't there is that it is not a reimbursable cost under the MSBA. So that would be a cost totally borne. And again, when we were developing this, we wanted to be as thoughtful as possible to develop an educationally appropriate, fiscally responsible building. So those were those kinds of decisions that had to be made, even though they were not the decisions that we want to make in the long run. The compromise was we're going to make it solar ready.
Let me just say a couple of things about this. You're right. It will be solar ready, it will not have panels. That's very consistent with other schools we've done, because the capital cost sort of makes it prohibitive. However, the building is going to be a sustainable design. It's going to be a green building. The town will actually get 2 incentive points, 2 reimbursement points in additional monies from the Massachusetts School Building Authority if it is CHIP certified, which is the equivalent of LEED. So it's going to effectively be a LEED building, which will mean, hydrants and condensing boilers, low-use toilet fixtures, a very efficient envelope, et cetera, et cetera. And some of that can be communicated back to the students. I mean, we often do displays that show energy use. It'll be, 20-something% below code required energy use. So there are ways of, it will be, recycled, lots of recycled materials within the building. So I think there will be ways that we can, teachable, ways of teaching the kids about it. It is true there's not, either geothermal or PV panels or something. But I will also say as a final point, and then John, you can add on, we've done a host of schools, and a host of schools that were ready for photovoltaics, and most of them ended up through grants locally doing it quite quickly. So it's not necessarily part of the original capital project, but because there are grants out there, there are lease buyback programs out there, there are a lot of ways of the community achieving that goal quite quickly. So I think it is a reasonable possibility. You want to say anything?
John, Director of Facilities. Just on the solar, as many of you may know, we do have a photovoltaic system on the Turkey Hill Middle School currently. It's 106 kilowatts. It produces about a third of the power that the middle school uses every year. And we pretty much pay the market rate for electricity, so the same cost per kilowatt. But it's done under a power purchasing agreement where we lease the roof space. We don't own the panels. Are not responsible for the maintenance of the system. But it does save us all the distribution costs for all that electricity. So it's a real win. It's a savings of about $6,200 a year just for that one school. So, I think that certainly we would look at whether or not we can get a power purchasing agreement in place for a middle school, high school, and it will come down to the economics of it. Whether it, in fact, will pay for itself. But I think that that is certainly something we've been discussing, and we would probably look to try to have that to go in, if it can't go in, sometime closely after it.
I just had two quick things to say. I think it was probably, I'm not sure if it was 20 years ago. My mother works at the Overlook Middle School in Ashburnham, and when they built that new school, she had nothing but positive things to say about it. The attitude adjustment that happened. We had the opportunity to tour a school in Fairhaven, Mass, a brand new primary school, and walking in there and seeing the school, just the brightness, the big windows. It definitely, in comparison to what this school looks like, it's pretty shocking and ridiculous. So, the only other thing, and this is sort of an aside, also in Fairhaven, when they changed all the street signs, they sold the old ones. And as I was sitting here, I was thinking about the paintings and thinking about some of the fixtures, the 50s fixtures and things that are so in vogue right now in certain circles. And it might be something, maybe not necessarily a real fundraiser, but it might be something fun to do. I don't know, sell some of these.
Sure, absolutely.
Like that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Might be fun.
Thank you.
Out of curiosity, how much was the price tag for just building a new high school?
it was $41 million just for the high school.
Is that reimbursable by?
No, it would not necessarily be reimbursable by the MSBA. A brand new high school? The brand new high school would be $41 million. But then again, what would happen is we would then be forced to reopen TCP because we couldn't exist on the current capacity. I'm sorry, here it is. So here we are, the new construction of high school grade 9 through 12. Okay, it doesn't solve the system-wide capacity issue, and there's not capacity at the primary school and the Turkey Hill Middle School to accommodate grades pre-K through 8, and that the total cost would be $52 million. I'm sorry?
Is that or is it not reimbursable?
It is reimbursable.
Okay. So probably to the same degree as the 6 through 12 or less.
We could assume, but here's the caveat, which is that we would then need to put capital monies into TCP, which would raise that cost.
And as a member of the building use committee, we talked about that, how much it costs to refurbish. That was like $2 million upward spending.
No.
Upward depending on.
No, it was far more than $2 million. $2 million you're quoting is what the building reuse committee thought it would take just to keep the building.
Keep it up.
Yeah. $2.5 million was basic repairs to the roof, the electrical, et cetera. It was not a renovation,
Yeah.
as we discussed the other night.
I know.
Full renovation would be $10 million.
But what's the reason for the full renovation?
Full renovation would be to get all the spaces up to date, get all the asbestos out, get all the building spaces up to MSBA standards, et cetera.
Okay. But the spaces, the asbestos is contained, so it's not a major factor.
If you start doing major renovations, then of course you have to deal with
Yes, so I'm
asbestos.
saying there's no need to do major renovations because it functions as a school. And if we're trying to be cost effective, we don't need to spend $8 million and have to function as an elementary school.
I don't think I agree with you on that.
So worst case scenario, if this whole thing gets voted down and we have to keep using this school, besides space needs, what immediately has to be fixed for it to function as a high school?
This building,
Yeah.
immediately, the roof, we'd have to look at the envelope in general, the windows. John, do you want to?
Yeah, I know you said $30 million, but I was interested in over what period of time we'd be spending that $30 million to fix the school.
You know, I think clearly the roof is the first issue because we're already, you know, at 27 years on the existing roof. And so when you go into re-roofing, you have to ask them, well, what are we re-roofing for? We're re-roofing for continued use for the next 25 years, which brings you back to, are we really looking at a major project that's a renovation? So, you know, I think if this didn't pass, you're probably back to square one on what do we do about Lunenburg High School. And I think, you know, you might have to re-roof just to buy some more time. This has obviously been a long process to get to where we are today. But, you know, when you look at the whole building, you know, there's issues everywhere. You know, and so the roof issue leads you into issues with asbestos and ceiling plaster that will delaminate. So I think you deal with the roof immediately, but you really are back to square one. What do you do about the building as a normal?
Yeah. I'm just interested.
I just also want to point out that if we were to do what was necessary to get this school back onto a 50-year life cycle, it would be $35 million.
Okay, just want to know over what period of time. I mean, we're not signing a check for $35 million tomorrow. Over how many years is that $30 million?
It would be something that we need to be done in the next 5 years. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that once we do that 35 million renovation, we're still going to have some space issues which touch upon accreditation. It won't necessarily get us out of some of the building issues that we currently have.
So space issues would be real with the Passios building?
The Passios does not, because it's an elementary school, I can't really,
If the 8th grader would leave this building, would there still be space problems?
if the 8th grade were to leave this building,
If the 8th grade were to leave this building, we'd still have undersized science classrooms, we'd still have an undersized library, undersized music classroom. So all of those things would not be necessarily fixed in terms of just putting a new roof on this building. And that still leads us to accreditation kinds of concerns. So you start to fix the envelope, but you do nothing to improve the educational capacity of this building relative to your STEM programs and relative to those issues that we talked about around the smaller spaces for students as well as project spaces. So all of those kinds of concerns continue. So you don't address the educational, operational facility issues. You keep the water out.
you're welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Please, again, if you have any further questions, you can feel free to email us, call the superintendent's office. The school building committee is continuing to meet, and we post those meetings. You're welcome to come. The school committee, should we get a positive vote in January, the school committee will continue to work until the project is completed. And again, those are open meetings. And if we do get into the next phase, we get into design, we again would be hoping to have an open forum for folks to contribute their thoughts and ask their questions. There is, again, the dates for the town meeting is January the 7th, which is a Tuesday. That will be here at 7 o'clock. The election, the ballot vote will be the following Saturday, the 11th, I believe from 8 until 5. There is, if you're not registered or you've changed addresses and need to re-register, the dates for that are posted. It's sometime this month that closes to register or to re-register if you've had a change of address. Thank you very, very much for coming out.